There we go. Okay, I think it is recording now. So, all right, ready for roll call. Chair Lohman.
Here.
Vice Chair Foster.
Here.
Brian Dorsey.
Present.
Rich Miller.
Here.
Bob Silverforb is absent tonight. And Mike Smith.
Here.
Megan Thornton.
I heard
Chris
a week here.
West.
Here.
And Lori Zwingli
heard of-
is absent tonight.
You heard a week here. Does that mean you can't hear me at all?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
And Kim Young will not be with us tonight.
Correct, yes.
Okay.
Meeting conflict.
Okay. Thank you, Angie. Approval of the minutes from last meeting.
Well, can we do this without Bob here?
Well, we're going to have to tonight.
Yeah, we're gonna have to learn how to.
Well, and I do have an amendment to the business when we get there, Chair Lohman. So.
Oh, is it part of the the minutes?
No.
Oh, okay.
It's making sure that we designate somebody, since Bob's not up and again, we got to have somebody to do the minute stuff with Bob leaving, so.
Okay. Is there a motion regarding the minutes from last meeting?
Also move that they're accepted as presented.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay,
No, we're not doing that. You're not getting
Mike, second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. All right, minutes are approved, Angie. If you'll fire those over to me at your leisure, I'll sign them and get them back.
I sure will. Thank you.
Okay. Board member announcements. Let's see. Lori's not here, so let's go backwards. We'll start with you, Chris.
All right. Well, I just want to give recognition to the department again. I think anybody on Facebook was sitting on the edge of our devices a couple nights ago when we had the impaired driver coming up 99 from Newburgh, and RPD got involved with the sheriff and state police and finally dealt with the person in Beaverton. But it was all over social media and stuff, and some of us somehow got hooked into tracking it as people were posting constantly, and it showed the great coordination, and they were able to deal with a person that shouldn't have been out driving. So that's awesome, and I'm glad nobody got hurt.
Okay. Megan?
What you do is.
I've got nothing.
Not a thing.
Oh, I do have one thing. I will be fully vaccinated May 28th.
Oh, it's too
and
late
I
now,
couldn't
Meg.
be happier.
Oh.
Okay, fine. Too late.
No, go ahead.
I will be fully vaccinated May 28th, and I'm so excited. As will my husband, which makes it even better.
Okay. Mike Smith?
I am fully vaccinated. Other than that, I got nothing.
Okay. Rich?
Just two things actually. One, I just came across a real quick email, real quick story on the news wires about how a deputy helped overturn a car single-handedly and got a woman from being trapped in her car from an accident, and that happened in Virginia. So, yay for our police officers. The other thing is that I know I'm going off at the end of June, but one of the things that I just am looking forward to, something I've been talking about with my congregation, is just it took a while for us to fall into the COVID pandemic conundrum and just all the things that just sort of fell in on us, and it's going to take a while for us to get out of it. And just want to encourage all of you. One of the things that I think will really help is this summer when we start seeing some of our normal summer activities happen again. And I'm looking forward to seeing you all walking around downtown this summer.
Okay. Brian, you're up.
Yes, I just want to say I'm getting my second shot here June 8th, so I'm excited about that. And we had our election, and I'm just hoping and praying that the community continues to see the value of our resource officers in the school. I think that's a very important thing, especially coming off of this COVID. It's definitely not a vacation, but this whole COVID circumstance we found ourselves in this year, for next year, for there to be some support, both with counselors, but also with really great officers in the schools to help to support the kids.
Okay. Diane.
I don't think I really have anything. I'm actually done being vaccinated with both vaccines, and my family of 5 is well on their way. So
Good for you. Good for you. Well, let's see. I'm fully vaxxed, and we got back from Hawaii, and just all of a sudden, 2 days later, here's an email from Providence. They dropped down to Bridgeport, and you and your wife can get their shots. And then 3 weeks later, we got number 2. You'll see a little further down on the agenda that we have the chair and vice chair selections. Chair position effective either 6/1 or 7/1 has directly to do with me. My wife and I have sold our home, and we will be relocating to the Phoenix, Arizona area in mid-June. So this will be my last meeting with the PAB, and obviously my last meeting to chair. So I just want to tell everybody what a privilege it's been to work with you for these past 3 years. It's hard to believe it's been 3 years, and to chair the last 2 years. It's really been a personal privilege. I remember when I sat with Chief and Chris and interviewed, I wanted to give back, and I'm hoping that I have given back something. So we did really good on the house. I mentioned to Brian about the appraisal. We're looking for that nice appraisal to come in. And so anyway, thank you all for your allegiance to the police department and for police in general. And that's it. So shall we move on to business?
That sounds like it'll be wonderful for you and your wife.
Thank you. Yeah, we're excited. It's the downsides for us. We're trying not to put emotion into it, but it's still there. With our son and our grandson here, but we will see them in Arizona. So that's not a problem, just not as much, not as often.
That was my question. Is your family there or here or?
My family's kind of all over, and this is where Diane and I met and married and where we have called home, but we're both from the Midwest, and I'm from the Cincinnati, Ohio area, and my wife's from eastern South Dakota. So I have a son in Iowa, I have a son here, I have a grandson here. We have really good friends in Arizona, a whole bunch of really good friends, and so we're gonna enjoy this phase of our adventure together. And we get to celebrate our 40th anniversary down there, so that'll be fun. Yeah. Okay, business. Item 5A, Traffic Safety Committee liaison selections ×2, effective July 1. I think this is what you were alluding to, Chris?
Yes.
Okay.
It's been, I won't speak for Mike, but it's been a good experience. And I think the committee is moving along well. But I want a night back. So, yeah, but I think now It's clicking along. We understand the roles. We had some hiccups. So, but I encourage anybody that has the time and wants to learn about some of the challenges that the city has. It's a great gig.
Mike, how about you? What's your
You know, I totally agree with Chris. I found the committee one nice group of people, and I really learned a lot. It's very educational, quite enjoyable. You know, like Chris, it'll be nice to get an evening back. But that being said, it has been a great experience. I would not hesitate for anybody else to jump in, and I think you'd really enjoy it.
Okay.
Hey, I have a question. I'm looking at the agenda and we're talking about this and then chair and vice chair selection. Do we have the replacements for those board members going off the board already secured? Because I feel like if not, we're making a decision about the next year. I mean, I get not having a brand new board members, chair and vice chair, but there's no reason they couldn't be on traffic safety committee. So why do we have to make that decision tonight based on 4 of us, 5 of us remaining?
Gee.
I need help understanding this.
I don't think you have to make that decision tonight. I think the intent was to get it on there so that folks could start talking about it. I would remind everybody that from the beginning of that, with the connection with the Police Advisory Board and the Traffic Safety Committee, this board agreed that those would be rotational positions, that a couple folks would serve for a year and then a couple other folks would serve for a year. So it's just a matter of making sure that we're ready to seat those positions. We can do it in the next meeting, but obviously then it's crunch time at that point. I mean, there would have to be a couple people that would do that. So, and it might be, to Megan's point, it might be a bit much to ask of a brand new board member on the Police Advisory Board. I don't know how everybody felt, but they might feel like they're kind of drinking from a fire hose and now suddenly to have 2 meetings to go to. So I just think that needs to be considered, but no, you do not need to make a decision on that tonight.
Okay, so then I want to make sure I understand who's staying of the existing members, assuming between you and the mayor, we're all approved again, correct?
It's not between me. So,
well, as in you
yeah.
take to city council and the mayor, here are the people that want to stay. I recommend reappointing them, or you're going to tell us if you don't want us anymore. So that would be myself, Diane, Chris, Lori, Brian, correct? Anyone else?
No, I think that sounds about right. Good job.
Did Mike stay in, isn't he?
Oh, Mike is staying.
Oh, Mike. Oh my gosh, my yogi.
Oh.
I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry, Mike. Didn't mean for that to be awkward. I was going to try to tell you privately, but.
I got your back, Mike. I got your back.
Yeah, so I love having Mike on the board.
So there's going to be 6 that will go before the mayor for reappointment, and there'll be a wide and broad recruitment for all the boards and commissions, and of which we'll have 3 positions vacant. So
on that point, are we going to get that information tonight to be able to share with people that, hey, Police Advisory has 3 open positions. You'd start June 1 or July 1. Here's the application process.
Yeah, that all takes place as just a matter of routine. So the recruitment will be posted, I think, here before too awful long. Again, because of the timetable, the calendar runs the same now with all boards and commissions. So we're doing one massive recruitment and it's going to be published, and folks will have an opportunity to apply. And
So my my last comment, because you all know me, this is not my only. My last comment on this is that given where I am between my business, my husband's businesses, child rearing, all of that, I'm happy to, I mean, I've already said I want to stay on the board. I'm happy to do a vice chair or a chair, but I cannot take on a second meeting a month. I actually had to give up being on comprehensive planning committee. It was actually recommended that I give up both, and I was like, no, I'm keeping the police. So I'm happy to support in any way, but I can't take on another night. I mean, tonight alone was hectic. Just getting here, and everyone in the damn house knew that I had it. So police advisory, absolutely. Traffic safety, I can't do that one. I'm sorry. And I know that leaves 5 other people going, well, crap. There's one out. But I just want to be forthright and honest about that.
I don't know. I thought I heard you volunteer for either the chair or vice chair position. So, yeah.
I would do that of police advisory. Yes, I volunteer for one of those. If any of you will have me for one of those, but that does not change the amount of nights I'm committed out of the house. As would traffic safety be an additional event.
Okay. Well, Jeff, I think you have that duly noted somewhere. Do you not? Megan is a volunteer.
no, that's your business, board.
Okay. Angie, if you would record that.
And
Megan,
Frank, you know what? I'm sorry. I'm unclear what we're talking about. So the agenda item we're on right now is the traffic safety
yeah.
committee liaison selection. So.
Okay, you're right.
And I
So
feel
I
like
said that's what I can't do.
they're getting kind of crossed together because now with, you know, a remaining 6 members and 2 transitioning out of those 2 positions, right? We're just going to kind of have to flip flop a little bit to fill the other positions. And then I did want to know, I mean, Brian was very kind to recently volunteer to take part in the position that was asked for by the city. So, you know, he also is taking on an additional responsibility for the police board already. So, you know, it might be then us remaining 5 or so flip-flopping and filling those remaining positions. So along those lines, while I too probably would prefer not to take an extra meeting, I could trade someone for the traffic committee to take on the vice chair position. So again, to give Chris and Mike a chance to get out of those positions, if that's sort of a trade. So not that you have to trade with my position, but you know, it sounds like we only have a few to fill some spots. So we're probably going to have to do some shifting around.
Well, and Diane, to your point, I'd be happy if you went to traffic to take on your vice to trade. So to Ralph's point, yes, you can, or Mike's point, yes. I mean, we're all kind of mixing it up together here, but
let's stay on for the moment. Let's stay on traffic safety committee. Is there anybody that feels like they would like to either continue with that committee or volunteer for that committee?
This is Mike. I mean, excuse me, if we're running out of bodies, excuse me, I would be willing to continue on with the traffic safety committee if necessary.
Okay.
We haven't heard from Lori since she's
Thank you,
not
Mike.
here. She's holding over.
Yeah.
It's true. And then actually just as an aside, unrelated, but also Lori's commitment to the police foundation in addition to this board. Again, that's her choice. That is, you know, a choice, but it is another commitment that she is making outside of this board as well.
Well, why don't we leave it at this? We know we have a lot of openings. We don't have nearly enough people for it. why don't we, if you're interested, why don't we speak to Chief, if that would be okay, to give you an email or a phone call and say, I'm interested. And if you can use me in this capacity, have my name recorded.
Well, respectfully, Mr. Chair, I would rather just carry this forward to the next meeting.
Okay, that's fine.
And you've had a couple folks express a willingness to take those positions. So I think we can finalize this next meeting. Maybe we'll have, I think we're missing, let's see, we're missing one of the 6 that will be carrying on. So
Yeah.
Perhaps we'll have an opportunity next month to finalize it. And as Megan pointed out, it doesn't have to be finalized tonight. So.
Okay.
Is it fair, Ralph, did you say this is your last meeting though? So will I need to be leading the next meeting?
Well, that
Just
was
to confirm that.
in B1 there. It says chair position effective 6/1 or 7/1. I don't have a problem, Chief, with Diane as our vice chair picking that mantle up and moving us through to the end of the cycle.
Yeah, and I should have clarified that for the agenda, but that's on me. So yeah, by protocol, that's what would happen. So, you're essentially resigning. And so for the next meeting, Diane would fill that role. We have elections then next meeting, and you all can figure out who's going to be the chair and vice chair moving forward.
Okay.
At the June meeting. So Angie and I will coordinate with Diane to get the agenda and everything ready for the next meeting.
So Chief, I guess since this is all coming kind of together the way it is because of the change in the charter and everybody going on and off and at the end of June and stuff, I'm almost wondering for vice chair and vice chair, is it right to do it in June or is it right to do it the first meeting in July? And I know this is our first time of going through this cycle this way. I wonder what the other boards and commissions, how they're dealing with it too. If they're doing it at the end of the cycle or the first meeting of the new cycle.
Well, last year, didn't we do May for July 1? Because we've always been a July 1.
No.
Oh, it's March 1 or April 1, something like that.
So I think it, Chris, to your point, I think it's really semantics. So in the June meeting, Diane will assume in Ralph's absence, will assume the chair position. Rather you pick who's going to run the July 1st meeting next month, or you do it the first thing at the July meeting, which is the 7/1 there. I'm not sure it matters.
Okay.
I guess the only advantage would be for staff to work with the new chair in preparation for the July meeting. But it certainly could take place at the July meeting and during the July meeting.
And then just a point, since we're talking about July, is that actually is finally, we'll be going on vacation and it will be in July. Finally, I'm a teacher family, and so we're very predictable. 3 high schoolers, teacher husband, we travel in the summer. And then we're around the entire rest of the year. But July, we will be gone. So I will be missing that meeting.
So that's when we make decisions on what Diane.
Okay, so Diane's chair.
Can I not approve the minutes then after that? Is that how it works?
All right. I understand, Chief. It's just trying to process all the moving pieces we got going over the next 2 months. So.
Okay.
I would think it makes sense to make the decision before July 1, just so that we all are starting fresh. Like
I agree.
New team. Even if someone as important as Diane happens to go on vacation once a year.
So have we thoroughly covered this now? Okay. Let's move on to use of force discussion and feedback update.
Yeah, I just wanted to keep that on the agenda, Mr. Chairs, in case anybody wanted to share any feedback or anything in particular that they had received, or I don't have anything to add at this point, so it can be very quick if nobody has anything else to share.
Anybody
I
else?
think I received 2 or 3 comments. So Brian posted his, here are the scenarios Chief gave us at the last meeting, asking for feedback. I waited about 3 weeks to make sure people responded to that before trying to grab another group, all on Facebook, the community groups. Like I said, I think I got 2 or 3 comments. One was, I don't feel comfortable. And I said, well, that's why I gave the chief's email and my email. Still have not heard from that person. Doesn't mean they won't, at some point say something. The only other comment I got was from an immigrant, good friend of ours who moved here from England, and his comment was like, yeah, there's a lot of differences between policing in the UK and policing in America, and it's good that you're thinking about it and talking about it, and real generalized high five, but nothing of substance that would actually give the chief or the department solid information to cogitate on, which I frankly find, and I emailed the chief this earlier this week, a little disappointing. Like, okay, is it because we're comfortable? Is it because there aren't, a ton of minorities in Sherwood like there are in other cities in the nation? Is it because we're not having some of the issues that happen in other cities? I mean, I don't know the reason, but I don't know if that means it's a good thing that we don't get a response or a bad thing that we don't get a response. It just is. So there's my 2 cents.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I didn't do the social media. I talked to a couple neighbors, and in the first scenario that dealt with the person in a mental crisis, what both of the people I talked to said is to back away, but not let the person necessarily run away. Keep contact. And it was a good opportunity to talk, since it's in the news so much again with Portland. The fact that that Sherwood has body cameras and things are being recorded, that came up in both scenarios. And that made people feel good about how Sherwood would handle things. And then with one of the individuals on the person in mental crisis, I could talk about the Washington County program. And that was a good discussion. So with regards to the civil disobedience with it's not a riot, but an event of with property damage and stuff like that. Again, cameras was important, and both cases, it was that the officer should apprehend people, but keeping back till things started breaking down or something, but with the cameras on, recording. As the scenario talks about not wanting to get in the middle of it and stuff like that, but as people move to the next thing, take the opportunity, if possible, to apprehend somebody so that they can be cited or whatever for the damage they've done. Some accountability. Both people wanted accountability to the people that did property damage. So, and you know, there's so many whats and ifs when you start talking about something like that, how big the group is, and you know, stuff like that. So, that's about the best I can do for you, Chief, from the round discussions that we had.
Anyone else?
I'll give it a shot. My neighbors think that I have incredibly strange conversational gambits, you know, up by the mailbox. But basically what everybody seemed to feel was, you know, no one has any patience with the property damage stuff. You know, everybody is absolutely furious at property damage. A lot of empathy, sympathy for police in terms of the mental crisis episodes. And kind of the big feeling was no one had any trouble with apprehensions and stuff like that, so long as the police weren't perceived as coming out of the gate at 100 miles per hour, coming out just looking to be physical. If there was some talk first and then it eventually led up to having to get physical, everybody understood that. They just didn't want, you know, the cowboy episodes, I guess, if you will, of just people coming out wanting to be physical right off the bat.
Others? There you go, Chief.
Very good, thank you. I would ask and encourage you all to just continue similar dialogue and as as odd as it may seem to your neighbors, how's the family? Hey, what do you think about police doing this? Yeah, I get that. But you know, folks know you're on the police advisory board, and this is an important topic of conversation. And again, realizing that the value is that if you know, I write an article and I can, in my article in the Gazette or not the Gazette, the Archer, excuse me, I can say, hey, tell me what you think about this. I can almost guarantee you that I'm not going to get any emails. We post on social media. Sometimes that's more effective than other times, but as Megan and Brian have both reported, the responses have been extremely low, which is not completely surprising just because it kind of comes and goes. However, the one thing that you cannot get away from is face-to-face conversations with family, friends, and neighbors, coworkers, and so on. And you know, think of the rule of 10, right? If each person, if each member of you, although we're not 10, we're 9, but if each one of you talks to 10 people, we now have responses from 90 people. If those 10 people each that you talk to somebody about, hey, I had this interesting conversation with my neighbor the other day. Now we have an exponential number of an amount of feedback, and we're able to share it publicly. You all reporting out gives folks that are listening or maybe watching this recording later additional things to think about and understand what their neighbors are saying. So this is important dialogue, and so I thank you for your efforts, and as I said, I encourage you to continue. This is something that communities need to talk about, and so that's good. I have always, for the most part, believed that no news is good news, right? If something's broken, people are going to make noise about it, and when things go wrong, when policing breaks down in specific incidents in specific communities, people let us know. And so when policing works, people are generally quiet. And so I think that's a good statement, you know, on policing for us. So anyway, thank you. Continue. Feel free to share anything. If you've got anybody that wants to talk to me directly, feel free to give them my email if they don't already have it. And I love to have those conversations. So that's all I've got on that, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Okay. Chris, you had your hand up. Megan, you had your hand up. Megan, you were up first, actually.
I keep changing my mind. Can we take the question more broad, Chief, or do you want us to stay specific in scenarios? I mean, I consider a question like, okay, the conversation about reimagining policing in America is a big conversation. How do you see it directly relating to Sherwood? See if maybe that gets more than what we get being specific.
Yeah, you're welcome to ask whatever question you like. We started vague, and then we tried to narrow them down with the scenarios. And so now at this point, I don't have any further guidance other than just to continue engaging in conversation when you can. So however you want to do that is totally fine with me.
Chris?
Yeah, and I had written this down for board members bringing stuff up, and I forgot to bring it up. And that's a couple months ago we had the discussion about the like pellet guns and airsoft guns, and I had asked the chief to talk about what the policy was in the city of Sherwood and stuff. And since that discussion, those have been in the news again in Washington County. And I just wanted to give a shout out to all the departments that have taken situations where young people were doing really dumb stuff with fake guns that resulted in law enforcement calls, and the officers involved were able to deal with the situations and nobody got hurt. And I just wanted to, again, give a shout out to the men and women in blue for handling those really tough and scary situations that we've talked about before.
Anybody else have any input? Ready to move on? Item 6, traffic safety update. Looks like that's the Mike and Chris show.
Mike, you want to go first?
I'll let you go first, Chris.
Well, we have a new member of the Traffic Safety Committee, and I know I'm going to massacre this last name, but it's Dorian Libel? Okay. And interestingly, he works for Washington County, and his job is to deal with traffic light maintenance and stuff. So he's a great addition to the committee, and got right engaged with some of the issues that we're dealing with. The one thing that I wanted to highlight that we discussed, actually two things, we're still talking about and how to deal with Sherwood Boulevard and the moving the school administration building being the old Hopkins, and the middle school being the old middle school being a school, and where the traffic light crossing is, and where the school zone sign and all that stuff is. That's a work in progress. There's a lot of moving pieces. It needs to involve some engineering and assessment type stuff, but also needs to engage the school district. So we're still working on that, but we had a good discussion, and Dorian being part of the committee was really beneficial. And then we had a request to put a mini roundabout at First and Oak. And many of you over the last month may have seen the radar trailer parked at the end of Oak. I think that's Oak. No. at the far end of the roundabout by the retirement home. And why that speed trailer was there, because you can't get up fast enough. At least that's my test. But they wanted a little mini roundabout halfway between the roundabout and the stop sign. Well, that ain't happening. We did make that decision. So that's what I have, Mike. I don't know if I left you anything.
Yeah, we did manage to close out one issue, the parking on Lavender Place, which has been contentious, but we managed to get that one taken care of. Other than the ones that Chris mentioned, there's a couple that are still in process, having to do with lighting on the corner of Sunset and Lad Hill, and also speeding issues coming down Lad Hill right there. So some research being done on those. But other than those issues, it was a pretty quiet meeting, actually. That's all I got.
Okay. Thank you for your report. Thank you for your service in that committee. Chief, Kim is not with us tonight, but is there any chance that you might have some council news that we could hear about, or do we just want to pass it by?
I think I will not take the bait and will pass it by, other than to say that we are in budget committee meeting as we speak. So I was at budget committee virtually budget committee meeting with Captain Ty Hanlon. And we managed, we were able, I should say, to present the police department budget, proposed budget for 21-22. And I was able to get out of there in time to come to this meeting. Captain Hanlon is still at the budget meeting. He serves as our budget manager. He does a very good job at that. So the budget committee meetings are tonight, and then the next 2 Thursdays after tonight. Next week, I anticipate they will meet for sure. The third week, they may not, unless they need to. So that's probably about it with regard to council. They're a busy group.
Chris, you have a question?
Yeah, Chief, do you have any sense of extra funding that the city's getting out of the American whatever act passed here a couple months ago, that
The CARES Act?
billions of dollars are coming?
There's a couple different, let me rephrase that. There's a few moving parts with that. There's different funding sources and different allocations. I would recommend you contact our finance director, David Bodway. He could better answer that question than I can. I know the city of Sherwood has benefited from some of those grants and some of that funding, but I wouldn't begin to try to tell you what the amounts are and where they're at, or timelines or anything like that.
Thank you.
Mike Smith.
And Chief, I don't know whether you might have any information on this, but what with the new CDC guidelines for mask wearing and COVID and everybody getting vaccinated, et cetera, is there any word on when our meetings may be able to go back to being in person as opposed to electronic?
No, I'm actually was planning to cover some of that news during my staff report, not specific to your question. But the answer to your question is I don't know. Those are ongoing conversations about looking ahead to the future from our emergency management planning committee, and that decision hasn't been made yet. But I know it's right there in the forefront of our planning, and we're just kind of waiting to get some of the additional guidelines to come out, which is now has happened, and I think will continue to happen. And so I think hopefully, I'm not sure that we'll see anything drastic in June, but maybe by July we may start to see some noticeable changes.
Thanks.
Thanks.
I have a question that was brought to me by a citizen today. It's not policing related, but it's traffic related or road construction related. So I'm just wondering if anyone knows about the Chapman Road by Red Berry Barn, that 99 and Chapman intersection. I've heard several rumors like, oh, it's going to be dead ended. So to get to the Red Berry Barn or anything off of Chapman, you have to go the back way through the country, or it's going to be a light, or I forget the other one. But there were like 3 different answers to what's going to happen here. And so I'm wondering, do we have, because we have traffic safety committee, do we have any information on what's
So
going
the
on
the traffic safety committee would not be engaged in those conversations because it's a state highway. So that's a ODOT in coordination with the city with regard to Brookman Road. Chapman Road's in the county. So I would say the best place to direct those inquiries would be to Julia Hyduke in community development. And she can get a hold of the city engineer, planning department, and talk about, that's going to be related to the Brookman concept plan and development that takes place on Brookman Road. The dead end thing that you mentioned, that sounds like complete. I don't recall ever hearing anything like that. But beyond that, I don't honestly remember. I'm in meetings, but so many meetings that I can't remember the details about what's being discussed. I'm just obviously reviewing from the perspective of public safety to make sure I don't have any concerns. But so yeah, they would need to reach out to Julie and her team to get that information.
Chief, you want to just continue with staff report?
I'd be honored, Mr. Chair. Thank you. I'm going to miss you, by the way, Mr. Chair. So
I'll miss you too, Jeff.
Okay, so a couple items of good news on the COVID-19 front. We, as everybody I think knows or certainly can imagine, the city is deeply engaged and has been for well over a year on that. It's not something we've reported here, but very often, if at all, but there's some good news. So I do want to make sure that everybody's dialed in on that. So starting tomorrow, May 21st, Washington County will move to low risk, just like that. So we are presently in high risk, and there is low, moderate, high, and extreme. Washington County has gone back and forth between high and extreme for the last several months. But we have now, as a county, reached the 65% vaccination target rate for persons 16 and older. And we have also, as a county, submitted the required equity assessment report. And so as a result, the governor announced that Washington, along with 4 other counties, will go to low risk, and that'll start tomorrow. So I would encourage anybody that wants to know exactly what low risk means to go to the OHA website and look up the risk guidelines if you just go to their website, you should be able to find it, because it is significantly different than extreme risk and a lot different and a lot better than high risk. So I think indoor capacity moves to 75%. I don't have it in front of me, but I think that's what it is, which is obviously going to have a positive impact on our local businesses and restaurants and so on. In addition, the Oregon Health Authority updated its COVID-19 epidemic trends and scenario projections in Oregon. And as of April 28th, the average number of secondary cases that a single case within Oregon is estimated to be at 0.86. So that's pretty low, and that's a clear indication that the spread of COVID-19 within Oregon is decreasing. So that may not be new news to everybody, but it certainly needs to be pointed out. It's very good news. So if everybody continues to use good judgment and while getting vaccinated is not required and it is a personal choice, it is highly encouraged. And the more people that are vaccinated that want to be, it certainly helps the overall rate. The target goal for the state of Oregon, not just Washington County, but state of Oregon, is 70%. And I believe that once the state of Oregon reaches 70% vaccination rate, there will be some significant lessening of restrictions across the state. So I think that's about it. We are looking at, on the COVID front, we are looking at, as a result of the good news, potentially having our National Night Out event this year, which would be in August again. Robin Hood Festival is on track for September, a September date, and I could look those up, but I'm sure some of you may know. For some reason, 24 and 25 is sticking in my head. I'm not sure that's correct, but anyway, so that's great news. We should be in a good position, and it'll cruising is scheduled for August. So Sherwood is going to begin to feel like Sherwood again. And what's most important and most valuable to me as your police chief on that front is that means we can again begin to engage with our community at a time when we need it badly, and we think maybe our community will appreciate it too. So looking forward to that coming. And then the only other thing I had actually listed on the agenda under staff reports is policy updates. The next round is coming, but they were few and non-critical policies, and so I didn't have as big a sense of urgency, but I'll get through those, and then we'll have the next updates for you to look at and recommend for city council approval, and we'll charge ahead. So that's all I've got, unless there's any questions.
Are we fully staffed, Chief?
No. We still have an unfilled position, and so we're in recruitment. So recruiting has been a challenge. If you know any folks that would make good police officers, that are quality people that can get through our recruitment process, I would certainly love to have them apply. We're not taking applications currently, but it's very likely that we will again in the future. So that's where we're at. We just, I think last week closed our current recruitment, and so we'll move ahead with the hiring process now.
So I can't remember, were those laterals and applicants? Was it lateral kind of applicants, or was it
On this most current recruiting? Yeah, it was a wide open, recruits and laterals.
Anything
Chief, I
else?
just had just a quick question. So what the reserve officer we had was hired full-time, correct? I remember speaking to a reserve officer when I came to speak, and I think he was hired full-time. Do we have any other reserve officers currently?
No, we actually hired both of them into full-time positions, which is really part of why, part of the goal of the reserve program. So while we're recruiting for full-time officer, we're also continuing our recruitment to try to fill those reserve ranks. Many of the folks that are interested in being a reserve are also interested in getting a full-time job. So those processes kind of overlap. And then of course, there's some people that aren't interested in a full-time job. They just want to be a reserve. They may already have a career and they just want to serve their community and give back some time. And so that is ongoing. We're looking to fill those positions that we lost.
Anything else for the chief?
Sounds like somebody's dog's got a question, but I can't understand what they're asking. So.
That's my white mini schnauzer. She's trying to control the neighborhood. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Hang on a sec. Let me close the door. There we go.
Ralph, you have to stand up and turn your back again so we can read the back of your shirt.
Oh, okay. Can you get it? Can you see it?
Does it say I'm out of here? Is that?
Thank you. Thank you, Ralph.
Kona? Was it backwards? Okay.
We got the message.
Anything else for the chief? Okay. Angie, do we have any citizen comments tonight?
We do not have any comments. Nope.
Okay. So I think at that then, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Unless there's something for the good of the order to yet to
If
come.
I move. I was just going to move to adjourn, but
Oh, okay. 2 seconds. I was just going to speak to the Sherwood West Community Advisory Board meeting. We had our first meeting. If I could speak to that, Mr. Chair, real quick.
Sure. Go ahead, Brian. You look like, by the way, you look like you're on a radio broadcaster.
Well, hopefully I sound like one. Normally I don't like my voice on these Zoom calls, but had a great discussion. That we had introductions of the members of the advisory board, and then we touched on just a little bit of some of the goals that we were hoping to achieve. One thing that was really impressed upon us is that we are really looking to facilitate economic development within and around the communities in Sherwood West. And so to that end, I had broached the topic of bringing in Bruce Coleman, who visited us here and had some great insight on what's happening in Sherwood and some of the feedback he's getting from businesses as he's looking to bring more new businesses and bigger businesses in. So he's going to hopefully be with us at our next meeting to speak to that. I think a lot of people are aware of all of the different hurdles and challenges that we have, and we're starting to talk about them. One being transportation and affordable housing, what have you. But that's going to really shape our discussion as we move forward. So a great first meeting, and I look forward to being a part of the rest of them and then really seeing how we navigate some of the new challenges. Middle housing is going to be a big one as well. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
Okay. Megan.
I move that we end the meeting.
Okay. Let's see what Mike has to say before we act on that. Mike?
Ralph, without getting overly maudlin, I think it'd be remiss to let you escape without saying thank you and how much personally I've enjoyed working with you on this committee. From the day I interviewed with you and the chief, it's been great. I'll miss you personally, and we'll certainly miss the cookies once we start meeting in person again. So thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Hear, hear.
You're here. Thank you.
Yes,
Ralph.
I agree.
Thank you.
You will be missed.
Go with me. Cookies go with me. Okay. Thank you. It truly has been my pleasure. And so what I want to say is, Chief, to you and our force, our men and women in blue, be safe out there. Be safe.
We got the message.
That was perfect. That was such good timing.
You never know what the phone's
It
going
was.
to do. Anyway, our meeting is adjourned. Jeff, be safe.
Thank you, Ralph.
All of our officers.
Thank you, Ralph. So
Thanks,
much.
Ralph.
Thanks, Ralph.
Keep
Thank you,
doing what
Ralph.
you're doing.
Bye-bye.
Have fun in Margaritaville.
That's where I'm headed right now. Okay. Y'all take care.
Goodbye.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.